Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Mark Carruthers, and it's that time of the week once again as we get a view from the opposition. Now, there's no doubt Newcastle produced an underwhelming display in Sunday's goalless draw, with the Wolves side currently sat at the bottom of the Premier League table. Their attempts to move on will come on Wednesday night when the Magpies look to take a step closer to securing a place in the knockout rounds of the Champions League for the first time in their history. There'll be familiar visitors to St James's Park as Newcastle take on Dutch giants PSV Eindhoven once again. And we're delighted to welcome Michael Statham from Football Irania to get the lowdown on what the Magpies will face. Michael, welcome along. Apologise if I butchered the pronunciation of the podcast there. But first of all, just looking at PSV, I mean, one thing that really stands out is their performances in the league, the results in the league. It looks to me as if the Eredivisie title's pretty much wrapped up now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, glad to be on. Thank you. PSV have been the standout Dutch side this season. Watching the Eredivisie as I do, try and catch as many games as I can. PSV just dominant. They are step of the rest. What's been really good though about PSV in recent years is even though they're dominating domestically under Bosch, their manager, and the quality players they've got, they're still hungry for more. Like, it doesn't stop them. They don't really get complacent. There was a little bit of that in the past, but this season it's been outstanding, and they're fully well equipped to have a really good go at doing well in the Champions League this season.
I mean, 1 defeat in 19 is incredible when you think of the clubs in and around them aren't even touching them, really, are they? It's, what is the secret of that success?
Well, Bosch likes to play really attacking football. If anyone's seen his side play in Europe over the years, they'll know that it's actually not gone that well for him at other clubs in Europe with the style that he likes to play. He has spoken openly himself that his dream as a manager is to have a team of midfielders play. And that is actually the case with this PSV side. There's a lot of midfielders that he likes to have really attacking wing backs. He likes even the strikers or people just behind to be quite technical players that can move around a lot. And they've created this really exciting brand of football that I think really catches the eye. I think people listen to this, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, at the time they beat Liverpool 4-1. It's a bit of a standout result, isn't it? But they do have those. They have that in their belt. They can also have some pretty below par games, but I think when the pressure's a little higher, and I think this is one of those. I know Newcastle maybe think, I'm not doing very well this season. We might struggle in this one. I still think that Newcastle are a really strong side from a Dutch football fan looking in. A lot of quality there, and we know how great the atmosphere will be on a Champions League night. And something like that will be a test for PSV. But if they can produce their best football, this is going to be a really, really interesting tie. I think two different brands of football come clashing here.
You mentioned the Liverpool game. Might as well discuss that, because I went back and watched. I mean, I watched it at the time, but watched it again a few days later, and they really took the game to Liverpool. And what struck me was they looked completely fearless. You mentioned the atmosphere at St James's. We know Anfield is kind of famed for those European nights, but it just looked like a completely fearless approach.
Yeah, they are really aggressive with the way they like to play. I mentioned already about the wing backs attacking really high. They've got a really useful player in the centre of defence as well, Yodi Skelton. He's their captain and he's a midfielder playing in defence. That's what I said. So he is really good on the ball from deep. He can set up attacks really well. Probably PSV's best player, if I'm being honest. But they've also got the wily experience of Ivan Perisic, who you might remember from your time watching Spurs in Premier League. I think Perisic, he has got quality as well as experience. He might play up top with PSV's injury concerns, but I don't think that bothers them too much if they're missing like an out-and-out striker. I still think PSV will have a lot of quality. They've got goals all over midfield. Added to that as well, someone like Joe Veerman. He's had criticism with his performances for the Dutch national team, but I think in PSV's setup, he's got all the tools around him to pull the strings and play ball to any position. I think watching PSV, it's probably the best side I've seen play in the Eredivisie for a long, long time, and that does include Ajax that got to the Champions League semi-final in 2018-19. Yeah. But that PSV side is really up there. Just the amount of quality they have.
You mentioned the manager or head coach, Peter Bosch. It's 2.5 years now since he was appointed as successor to Ruud van Nistelrooy, wasn't it? How has he evolved PSV from what he inherited from Ruud?
He gave them an identity, and I say about how attacking they are. That is it. It's this fearless approach to how they play. It's not what most managers would deem suitable to play in Europe. Yeah. But it has got them results at times where they weren't expected to. An example of this is when PSV were 2-0 down away at Sevilla once in the Champions League, and he just threw on all of his attacking players, and it was such a bold move. PSV won 3-2. They just went for it, and why not? It produces results such as that. Sometimes it'll go wrong, but actually more often under him it has gone well and worked. They like I say, they've just transformed this into a side that is not only got its identity, but also really, really big on getting results. And whilst they won't sort of sit back at any point to try and like soak up any pressure, really, that it's very rare in the Posh that we've seen that happen. They will have this brand, and they'll have lots of the ball, and they are pretty good with the ball.
I mean, you look at the two sides, and they're both very much in the mix to progress in the knockout stages. Yeah. How do you think PSV will view the tie? Will they, as you say there, just come and try and dominate possession and try and really go at Newcastle?
They've got 2 games left. They need a win. They need to either beat Newcastle away, or they need to beat Bayern Munich at home, hoping that Bayern have progressed by that point.
Yeah.
I think both are really difficult. So no matter what, PSV will think, we've got to win a game here. That's really hard. There's no easier game. I don't think they might sneakily fancy their chances, fans and players, but I don't think this is we're going to earmark this one for 3 points. Yeah. So because of that, that's what makes it really difficult for progression. But PSV did have a really difficult set of fixtures. They choked in their opening fixture, losing at home to Union Saint-Gilloise. It was a most winnable game. They didn't win it. I think their attacking approach kind of bit them back a little bit there with a few careless mistakes at the back. They then went to dominate the rest of the game and didn't score enough goals. Yeah, and that's it. That'll be the defeat they look back on if they don't get through. I'm quite confident they'll win one of those 2 games, but I just don't know which one. I always think though that I know PSV beat Liverpool away, but I always think that English sides have just got they know how to beat a Dutch team, especially when they're at home. Because mainly, having watched a lot of ties like this over the years, mainly because of the physical prowess of an English side, it isn't what Dutch teams are used to.
It's really interesting you say about the final game that they have, having Bayern Munich at home, because Newcastle are in a really similar situation where they go to PSG in their last game.
Right.
So I think Newcastle, well, both clubs will be looking at tomorrow night thinking this may be it. They've got to get a win there, which I guess in some way makes Wednesday night even more interesting.
And probably a draw as well.
Yeah, so no one knows where they are, yeah. Looking at sort of danger men, you mentioned at the top end of the pitch, the amount of injuries that PSV have got.
Yeah.
The fact they may have to be sort of forced into a little bit of an emergency striker role with Perisic, you said there. But who else should we watch out for? I know you said Veerman and players like that, but who could catch the eye?
I'll just give a few of the absences as well. Ricardo Pepi's their main striker, out injured, broke his arm. They've got a couple of other strikers that have been out for a long time this season. Ruben van Bommel's a big talent. It's been injured the whole campaign. Serginho Dest was out at the weekend as well. He's their main right back. So they are short in a few positions, which is lowering my confidence and probably making Newcastle fans delighted to hear. But this season, a couple of surprise players have come out. So Hustil is an attacking midfielder, but has scored double figures in the striker position this season. He's filled in there. Till isn't like the most gifted player on the ball, but has been really good for scoring goals. And it's like maybe we're overlooking Till, and maybe he is actually a good asset. He's never quite made it into a Dutch national team. He's sort of in the peak of his career now. So for him at PSV, like is at his ceiling now, like Joey Veerman, who's so good technically. He's got a great delivery on him from set pieces, but is PSV like his level? There's a few players like that in there. I already mentioned Scouten from defence being really good. I think, though, a bit of a dark horse in this PSV side is Mauro Junior. He's again, another player, 26, still with PSV. He is a technically gifted midfielder, attacking midfielder by trade, but has been playing at left back the past 2 or 3 years of his career. He flies forwards, really good on the ball. He will just pop up in little pockets. He won't always hug the touchline like a wing back. He will come in and really pull strings to play. He's a bit of a leader for PSV. He's Brazilian, but actually could play for the Dutch national team in the future because he's got a lot of links to the country now. So he's one of those kind of players who is really a big part of PSV now, having technically come for their academy. So there's him. Without naming every single player, they look out for the pace up top of Driouche. So Kurt Driouche is a winger by trade, but he played as a striker at the weekend. Perisic has also played as a striker, so I'm wondering who will play up top on Wednesday night. He scored a couple of goals against... it's gone out of my head now. Napoli, I believe. He did anyway, and I know PSV had a good win that night against Napoli. He's someone to look out for because even though he's not played a lot of games, people might underestimate him for his sheer pace and quality.
I think I'm right in saying Ricardo Pepe's been linked with Fulham recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. So good job that you're missing the PSV missing him then on Wednesday night. But yeah, he's their striker who will probably go to the World Cup and play for America. So he's a bit of a name. He's got a bit of status around him. Yeah, Fulham were going to sign him for about 25-30 million. PSV would prefer to do it in the summer. I guess now he's broken his arm. It'll be a little while anyway till something happens with that. He remarkably scored a goal and then broke his arm as he was scoring the goal. It's quite the way to go out, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Just to flip my sort of previous question then, in terms of the way PSV play, which Newcastle players do you feel may be able to expose any weaknesses?
I haven't watched a lot of Newcastle, but I do know about Harvey Barnes, and I think he's someone that they'll struggle with. I just think anyone that is direct, anyone that will run at a player, and any kind of strike that could bring that physicality and height, I think that's not what PSV are used to. I think they're used to dominating the ball, keeping the ball away from their opponents, stopping quite technical players, players that will... So, they might put a cross in, but they might fancy themselves to head things out if they haven't got a massive big target man in there. I think whenever PSV come up against that kind of challenge or a Dutch team in general, that is where their downfall can be. But I don't want to over-stereotype too much. But I mean, just giving the example of Yodi Scouten, who's a midfielder playing in defence, he has been caught out a few times with his positioning as a centre-back because he's not a centre-back. Yeah. His defensive partner, Gasirovski, is a physically imposing centre-back, so he will mark any striker in there. But again, any kind of prolonged pressure from Newcastle, and I think that's what PSV will struggle with. But the battle for Newcastle will be to get the ball enough to dominate and have periods of being on top of PSV. If they can do that, Newcastle win the game. I think if they're trying to play in the counter-attack, then I think PSV will fancy their chances because they are good at those kinds of situations where they can win the ball back on the counter and doubly back, the ball's back on and they're putting the team under pressure again. Just out of interest for you, like how do you see that going? Does that match up with what Newcastle can play well against?
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle are... You just never know what you're going to get from them this season. I think the strength under Howe in previous seasons has been when they play on the counter-attack because they've always had pace and break, whereas they're sort of trying to transition into a more possession-based team this season. Obviously, they're still kind of adapting after losing Alexander Isak and playing with 2 different style strikers with either Nick Valdemar, who's, as you'll know, is a bit sort of bigger striker, but not necessarily great in the air. Probably isn't really classed as a striker. He's more of a number 10, but can play in that 9 role. Then Johan Wissa, who hasn't really hit form yet, still I feel find his way back to match fitness. So it'll be interesting to see because of the style there. You said that I think Newcastle will want to dominate the ball. So maybe that just means that the kind of game, maybe the balance will go with the midfield. Can Newcastle get the ball more? Can they make things happen? The one thing I think Newcastle have struggled with this season, if teams do sit back and do sort of play in a low block, which doesn't sound as if PSV will do. So that may give Newcastle a chance. But Honestly, it's one of those, and I'm not trying to avoid giving you a definitive answer here. It is the fact you just don't know which Newcastle will turn up. They've had games this season when they've looked really good. They tend to come in the Champions League, so Union Saint-Gilloise away, Benfica at home, probably two of their better performances this season, but then go to Wolves on Sunday, who are comfortably the worst team in the Premier League this season. They sit in a low block and just keep Newcastle in front of them, and Newcastle couldn't find a way through. So, yeah, I mean, PSV, if they are going to play and try and get in the front foot, it may help Newcastle to an extent. But, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting game between two sides that probably will see this as their chance to get the win they need. It's really interesting with Newcastle's Champions League campaign this year because they're playing a lot of sides that they've played in previous European campaigns, PSV being one of them, playing the Champions League, playing the UEFA Cup quarter-final in 2004, I think it was. But there is one really strong common bond between the two clubs, which is Sir Bobby Robson, obviously idolised in England and particularly in the northeast here, particularly in Newcastle. There will be a statue outside of St James's. How is he viewed in Dutch football? How is he viewed at PSV in particular?
It's a really good question, and it's important to talk about him in the show because of his relations to both clubs. Of course, he was successful, won, I believe, 2 Dutch titles with PSV, back to back. But in like the years I followed Dutch football, you know, where you might have your, for example, like Match per Day in the Netherlands, there is a version of that where they give the highlights. They might give you some throwbacks of previous like montages of managers. Don't really see much of him anywhere, and it's sad because you say about a statue being built, and then in the Netherlands there aren't many flashbacks to many sort of foreign coaches really that have been in the country. It's a bit of a novelty when they do pop up in the league. As a lot of them are Dutch, as they really understand the style of football, that side of it. So yeah, I'd say sadly when you say that, how was he viewed? Like I'm sure with great respect, and PSV fans, I don't look back on it any kind of hatred or bad times. It's actually a good thing that he was there. But no, yeah, like I say, no kind of constant reminders, or I'm sure PSV probably post something now on social media, like the day of the game or something about him. But no, in the years of watching it, not really come across much about.
It's interesting. He unearthed Ronaldo there as well, didn't he? He was,
yeah, and you see loads of him. You see loads of Ronaldo, like on montages and flashbacks.
I still say the best striker I've ever seen, Ronaldo. If it hadn't been for those injuries, I think he would have been seen as one of the greatest of all time. Just a final one, just to get a prediction on the game, on a scoreline, and again, how you see the game panning out.
Yeah, like you, I don't want to. I will give my opinion on it, but I really can't say with much conviction or confidence. But I don't think Newcastle are going to win 3-0. I don't think PSV will do what it is Liverpool either. I think this will be closer. I really can't call which way though, which is why I'm going to say a draw, because I think it would really frustrate PSV that they might play well, not get the win that they need, and then having to go to the last game. I don't know actually. Well, I mean, who knows if 2 draws will be enough for PSV from both games, or even just an extra point here. Yeah, so I'm going to say a draw. Might even go 2-2. Yeah,
plenty of goals. Yeah, I mean, I can see it being a high-scoring game.
Both teams to score would be something I would feel confident in saying.
If I was a betting man, which I'm not, not a successful one anyway.
No, don't take that as word gospel, anyone.
I will say it will be a high-scoring game. Newcastle at home tend to be strong, and because it's Champions League night, they do tend to turn up at home games on Champions League nights. If it was the other way around, if it was away, then I think I'd be really concerned, and I am anyway, because I know what PSV have done to probably what you'd say is better teams in Newcastle this season. So I am a little bit concerned in that. I just see Newcastle may edge it just. Yeah. So I think maybe a 2-1 or a 3-2 will be mine. Either way, it sounds like it's going to be a really, really interesting game. But many thanks for joining us. It's been a fascinating assessment of how Wednesday night's game could go. Great lowdown on PSV, and they're certainly going to pose a threat to Newcastle. Many thanks as well to our sponsors, NordVPN. You can find more about the services they offer in the episode description. I'll see you on Thursday, where I'll join Andrew for the Monday show on Thursday, where we'll assess the game on Wednesday night and go over the finer details and look ahead a little bit to the weekend game as well.